I'm going to do a few of the Law of Sines Day 2 ditto worksheet, just to jog your memory. It's been a while. So I'm going to start with problem number 1, which is asking you to find the side QR. Now QR is opposite angle P, so I like to label it lowercase p rather than using 2 letters when I write the law of sines. So law of sines is going to tell me to choose an angle, and we're not going to choose the 47. It's kind of a decoy. You have to be careful because opposite side 47 is this blank side, and we don't want to create a second unknown. So I'm going to need to find this angle up here, knowing the fact that these 3 angles of a triangle add to 180. So a quick little subtraction from 180 of those 2 angles tells me that the third angle up there, that missing angle, is 38. So I'm going to squeeze in a 38. So the first ratio that I'm going to write is sine of that angle 38 over its opposite side, in this case 21 kilometers. I'm going to leave the labeling off for now. Has to equal sine of 95 over its opposite side, in this case little p. So there's my ratio with 1 unknown, three things that I do know, and I'll cross multiply this problem to get rid of fractions here. So p I'll place in front of the sine of 38 so I don't accidentally multiply it by the 38, and that ratio is equal to 21 times sine of 95. So to solve for p, we need to get rid of sine of 38 by a quick little division. And now we've got to head to our calculator. I know a lot of you are borrowing calculators these days, so I'm going to have to find that feature on your phone. Make sure you're in degree mode with whatever device you're using. I'm going to hit 21 times sine of 95, and I always like to hit enter after I do the numerator so I don't have to worry about my parentheses. And then I'm going to divide that by sine of 38, and that's going to give me that missing side, 33.98. The directions on the ditto say round to the nearest tenths. So little p, or if you want to call it QR, totally fine. 33.98 is a typical test question. However, on this ditto, rounded to the nearest tenths would give us 34 kilometers. So one of those for now. Okay, I'm going to turn it over now and do a law of sines problem that requires you to find an angle. This is number 5 on the back side. Question E, or the angle E, is in this corner here, and I'll just use the letter E as my unknown. So I'm going to start with sine of angle E, capital E, over its opposite side, in this case 18, has to equal sine of 98 on top of 38. We cross multiply this, 38 sine of E will equal 18 times sine of 98. A little tricky when you're trying to find the angle. We're going to end up using the inverse button on our calculator, which is a little tougher. First I'm going to divide both sides by this 38 to get sine of E by itself. And I'm going to head to my calculator right now and punch this fraction on. 18 times sine of 98, which I'll hit equals to first. Then I'm going to divide by 38 to give me what's traditionally a cruddy decimal. That decimal is going to be between 0 and 1. That's very common. And now I need to undo the term sine by hitting second sine. That is the inverse sine. I'm going to take the inverse sine of both sides. When you take the inverse sine of the sine, it will cancel it, leaving the angle that you're trying to find. But I do have to take inverse sine of this fraction on the right side. Use the previous answer button, which is going to be the second negative on a graphing calculator. It has the A and S, so second negative, so you don't have to type any numbers there or have any rounded off error. It equals, and we're looking at 27.97. Traditionally, we'll have round to the nearest hundredths, but for this ditto, we're going to round to the nearest tenths like the directions, which means we're headed to 28 even. So angle E is 28 degrees. All right, hopefully that jogs your memory on how to solve for a side and an angle using law of sines. On the worksheets here that you have today, remember the answers are on 2 pages at the end. So if you keep scrolling past the blank problems, there are 2 identical worksheets that have the answers right next to these so that you can check as you finish.